Welcome to Love and Life. I'm Dr. Karin Anderson-Abril here with my co-host,
Pastor Elliott Anderson.
And Love and Life is your place to hear conversations grounded in psych research, psychotherapy,
and biblical truth
to help us thrive in love and life. Welcome to part 2 of our story with Lori Wold, whose daughter took a routinely prescribed antibiotic and her life was never the same. That was 7 years ago, and Dana has been on a journey toward healing with a lot of gaslighting and a lot of the medical community refusing to acknowledge what she endured because of taking an antibiotic. She is on a path to healing, praise God, and we join Lori for part 2 of her daughter's story. Again, the reason we wanted to bring you this series is because so often we think that an antibiotic, it's just an antibiotic. It's something that's prescribed all the time, so it's got to be clearly safe and effective. But that's not always the case. I'd never heard of floxies or getting floxed from an antibiotic. And I'm very glad to know more and to know how sad it is that Dana went through all that. However, I'm so thankful that Lori has chosen to share her daughter's story to try to bring awareness to this situation so that others can avoid this life-altering and dreadfully painful adverse event from taking what one would think is just an antibiotic. A few years ago, I started having trouble falling asleep. And I started taking melatonin because I thought it was a natural way to try to relax myself, calm myself down, and go to sleep. But it turns out that as a hormone supplement, melatonin can disrupt our other hormones and we can build up an immunity to it. So when we started partnering with the wellness company, I was super excited to try their melatonin-free sleep aid called Restful Sleep. It includes passion flower, chamomile, valerian root, among other herbs and natural ways to help calm us down and get us ready to go to bed. I've been using it for a couple months now, and Restful Sleep helps my mind and body quiet themselves and ease into sleep. If you've ever had insomnia, you know how brutal it is. The wellness company's Restful Sleep can help. Head over to twc.health/lovelife and enter promo code LOVELIFE at checkout for 15% off your entire order. That's twc.health/lovelife and promo code LOVELIFE for 15% off your entire order.
I found this article and I thought it was a doctor that was actually seeing patients, but it was a radiologist. And interestingly, radiologists will read the x-ray and make a report. He was seeing numerous young people, some they don't normally see. And he started taking notice of the amount, the number of athletes. It was a lot of athletes that would end up with severed Achilles tendons and total knee replacements and ankle and boots and wearing all the stuff. He ended up calling. He went above his scope, getting in touch with some of their doctors. And he says, there's some kind of main consistency to all this. What is it? He was investigating it.
Yeah.
And he realized it was the fluoroquinolones that they were prescribed for something as simple as sinusitis, pneumonia, UTIs, prostate. They give it for, simple infections.
Right.
And that all of them had taken a fluoroquinolone before their injuries. So I found that letter and I printed it off and I'm like, at least this is something.
Yeah.
But, long story short, I contacted him because I thought he could see patients because I didn't know he was a radiologist at the time.
And he was out at Mayo.
He was Mayo.
Okay.
So I emailed him. I got his email. I don't even know how I got it. I think I, even called there and tried to find him.
Yeah.
And I ended up, he emailed me right back because I said, are you seeing patients for this? You sound like you, have done some research and my daughter's so ill. And I explained the story. He got right back to me and said, Mrs. Wold, he said, I'm not a practicing doctor. I'm a radiologist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see patients.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I just need you to know that this is a real thing. And, just that letter.
Again.
But gosh, I printed that letter off, and at least I had something to go on in case anybody else, would say.
Continue to challenge you.
Gaslighting continued. After this hospital episode, she wasn't getting better. We ended up going down because she had a couple of nights were so scary. And, of course, we had even family members saying, you need to get her in the hospital. And we're like, well, we do, but we're not getting any help. And I almost felt like they were thinking we were being negligent with our daughter. I'm like, oh my. So we're dealing with that. We're dealing with trying to get her better, trying to, what can we do? She ended up in one of the big teaching hospitals in Chicago. Same thing. They repeated tests. She failed that one. This was really scary because Dana, we felt like she ended up in the ICU there. That's how critical it was and stuff. So we had doctors and there were some new doctors that were learning in the room with us. And I ended up saying, please look into this. Can somebody just look into this? Yeah. Look, at this letter I have. Yeah. But I think, their go-to is let's just do all the tests. Let's do, and we had copies and discs of all of these so they wouldn't have to be repeated.
Right. You're like, we have the test.
They still wanted to do their own. They used a few. Yeah. And I finally connected with one of the younger doctors. I said, can you do me a favor and just read this article? This is what we think is going on. Now, Dana could talk, but yet there was times where she was just struggling and always wearing the big, God, I have pictures of that too, but I ended up, yes, she was not good. And she was being constantly monitored. And I think this is where it comes in that it's all in her head type deal. And I'm like, wait, you have 2 failed pulmonary function tests. And now they're going to play the psych card because everything was coming back normal except those 2 things. But I'm going, okay, you're telling us that you think it could be like anxiety. It was so strange. Like, no, she has something going on here that she's in ICU. Like, it was so, I felt like we were in this dream.
Nightmare.
There was times where I did lose it a couple times because the constant gaslighting, the constant not listening. But I understand now when I look back, you're passionate as a mom, you're trying to help your daughter. Right. And I honestly, I thought, they don't want to hear what I have to say anymore. And we end up, I don't know how we got through. She was there for a week. So that's like 2 weeks of hospitals. And then my daughter, she actually came across her search for this happened to a doctor out in California. And he was in a wheelchair for 6 months. Wow. Very young, 32 or 33, just got out of med school. He, his Achilles tendon, both of them were severed. Oh my gosh. He ended up, he was graduating. He was just new doctor, brand new. He said, I never thought this could happen. She saw a lot of his information and he was starting to help people and he believed him. So he was doing actual stem cell repair, which a lot of the Floxies, they call them, and that's a weird name. I forgot to mention that. It's strange. They call them Floxies because, ciprofloxacin, levofloxacin, they use that term. People that have had an adverse reaction, they just call them Floxies, and they were floxed. She found this video and she said, maybe we should try to do a consult with him. Yeah. But still in the hospital, going back again. I had this moment in the hospital that I have to share with you. Because, honestly, God is the only thing that has got us through this, because without his strength, it would have been easy to give up and just, just kind of retreat from the world. But at the end of her stay there in the Chicago hospital, when they were starting to play the race card, they told her they were going to bring in a psych team. And they told me and my husband that, can you leave the room while this is going on? And my daughter was told, she wanted us to stay, which was weird. She goes, I honestly can't answer certain things because her
Yeah.
vocal cords were pretty bad. And she goes, do you care if they stay? I can, whatever I say to you,
Yeah.
I can say to my parents, I can
Right.
say. And I think they just wanted us to separate. And that's totally fine. I get it at the time. So, you know, my husband left. He went down. He had to make some calls because he was missing a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
He was in real estate and he had to make like return calls.
Right.
And I went into a little patient room that they had, and thankfully no one was there because I actually lost it in there. But I walked in and I got down on my knees. It was so strange. I thought it'd look weird if somebody comes in, but I just had this prayer that, Lord, please expose Big Pharma in one of the most unbelievable ways. Because honestly, what I say, I'm such a small voice. You know, nobody's going to listen. They're not going to believe me, which is happening all the time. But I want you, Lord, to deliver and help people and show them, you know, even though there is some good, don't get me wrong, with pharma, there's a lot more bad. And please just take this and somehow, some way, release it to the world of the evils of it. Mm-hmm. And it's so weird. It's like I wanted it to happen like right then and there. And honestly, that was, 2018. But I find it funny, not funny, but just strange how just a year or two after, because I said, how can we do this? How can normal people just get that out there? Because it's squashed and it's censored. But it did. And then COVID happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, because the discernment, and it made people question. Yeah. And even though it was so bad what happened to our country and the world, I think that made people question, and it finally opened a lot of eyes. So it's so strange. I had to make sure I told that little story. After that, she was released, and she was just bad. She was not good. And
were they prescribing her some Xanax? Or
oh yeah, after they left,
I'm sure that
she told me, she goes,
psych eval was that.
Oh, it's funny. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because we came back in the room, and my daughter, Dana was just, you could tell she'd been crying, and I thought she had to face that alone. A team. She said there was 5.
Oh.
Yeah, 5 people from the psych team.
Oh, okay.
And she goes, a few of them weren't even looking at me, but they asked her, why do you think this drug did this to you? Why do you keep saying this? That you were fine until the drug or whatever. She goes, because I was fine before the drug. And you know what? I have to laugh at that because,
oh my gosh,
I can't believe that her feeling as horrible as she was, and with the breathing, and then having people look at her and just like, oh, it's all in your head. Yeah. And she felt that way. She goes, I really felt like I didn't get any kind of validation or nothing. It was almost like they wanted to see, do you have a bad family life? Are you depressed? It's crazy. I mean, and we were about ready to hang it up. I mean, but we're trying everything we can to get her better, and nothing's happening. So we did do a consult with the doctor in California, and Dana was able to answer certain things with him, which was good.
And was this via Zoom, or did you?
It was Zoom. Yeah, it was Zoom. And thank goodness my daughter came across him because, oh my gosh, he's all right. He goes, can you get her out here? I think everything she did, we did testing and stuff on his, his protocol. And he said, can she travel? And now he is used to now by this time doing, people were coming in from all over the world to his small little, it wasn't even a practice yet. He was renting it out into another medical office there right in downtown LA. And at first we're like, she can't fly. And he goes, no, I get it. Like, it was good that somebody could understand what we were saying with the hypersensitivity to noises, and not able to sit up, not able to be around people because it would even bring it further notice to her and how she looked. And we ended up, he goes, if you can get her out, I really think we need to look into stem cell for her. Because after he met with her, got test results of the pulmonary function, he said, you may I'm not sure how much you know about stem cell, which I did not know a thing. He said, I'm recommending this book for you to read. And it's all about the stem cell procedure in case that was the route. And it sounded like it was leaning in that direction. Yeah. He goes, I'm not going to lie. Insurance doesn't cover it. FDA, it's not approved. And, here in my mind, I'm just like, we'll do anything, get our daughter better. But then you think later, oh my gosh, it's totally out of pocket. So, but we get her out there and in the back of our SUV with a mattress. Yeah. I don't even know how we did it. Traveled cross country out there. She was going to be there 10 days. He wanted her longer, but we just couldn't. My husband's job. Yeah. With me not working, but I did start making sure I started going through the pension detail where I was going to collect that later, but it wasn't coming right away. Long story short, and I feel like I've been babbling too much, but it's just, we ended up going out there and we were prepared. And he said that he needed to, observe her for days afterwards. That's why we had to stay there too. But she did have the procedure. It's a very easy procedure, which I was shocked. Okay. It's done through an IV. Okay. They use it a lot in integrative now. I notice more and more. Okay.
And it was the stem cells.
It's stem cell, yes.
And they, through an IV, those stem cells go into her system. Yes. In the blood.
Yes, and it repairs mitochondria. That's amazing. And you know what? Honestly, I wish it's such a blur that things I remember reading and things about it. There's times now I'm going,
what was that again?
I know.
Like you understood it for a while.
Yes, when I needed to. It's so weird.
But you know what? Yeah,
She did have that, and he told us, though, he did warn us. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention. Oh, he was such a blessing to us because he knew exactly how she was feeling. He went through it.
He lived it. So,
and at first we did question, like, is this real? Like, are we seeing somebody that he's never seen a lot of patients yet? Like, but you'll do anything for a loved one, like you're at the end of your rope. It ended up where he sat us down, me and my husband. Now Dana at that time was getting certain tests there and stuff, and he took us in his office and he said, we need to go back through her history and see if she's taken these a lot. I think she had. He said it's cumulative, which was very interesting. Because at the time you're going through this, you do not look that it could be a problem. For instance, the very first time she took this for UTI was at 12 years old.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Do you know, Karin, this is the strange part. She ended up having these stiff necks where, you wake up in the morning and you go, man, my neck.
Yeah.
All right. It wasn't one of those. It was a week long of stiff neck. And to where she couldn't even sleep. She had to sleep sitting up sometimes. But then it would go away slowly, like after a week and a half or something. So he goes, I need you to walk back every time she took it to see. Wow. And people don't even, you don't piece that together.
Don't connect those dots.
And a couple times she said she was anxious. Like really, really anxious, weird anxious. Like felt kind of out of my skin anxious. And I went, oh my gosh. Every time she had taken it.
Right.
And then one time really stood out at me. She had a sinus infection. It wasn't a UTI. And they gave her Levaquin. I'm like, okay, it's still in the same family, but a different one than Ciprofloxacin. But it's all the same principle.
Okay.
Just different brand name. She took it and she told me her arms, and this is way back when she was like 15 or 16. Okay. My arms feel numb. I'm like, oh, maybe just, maybe they fell asleep or whatever. And no, they feel numb. I can't feel both of my arms right now. All right. It was strange. She had Levaquin the day or two before. I called right away and I told the doctor, I go, sure, she's having some. And I looked on the pamphlet. It does say the way it works is it cuts off certain, the nerves and tendons and focuses. Say you have a infection right in the trunk. All right. Say it's your lungs, oh, they give it also. I forgot to even mention this for traveler's diarrhea. People on trips.
Oh, take this they're going to go to Mexico or something.
Yes. Oh. Some of those people don't even know what hit them afterwards.
Yeah, I think they picked up some kind of crazy thing from the tropics or something.
But now that we look back, he forced us to sit down and he provided this puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And I never looked at it that way. I was like, okay, she did have this after this. And he goes, did you notice? And I said, well, this one time she had Levaquin. He goes, all right, every time she took this, which is a handful, I can count them on my hands, like how many times, but from 12 to 29, he said it was a puzzle. It's cumulative. And he thinks this last time that she got it, that was it. The body could take no more.
Yeah.
It was called her threshold. She was at her threshold point.
Mm-hmm.
And it was catastrophic.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I need you to understand this, what happened to her and what we're learning, what happened to me. I mean, he goes, believe me, he goes, I learned, I mean, so many doctors prescribe this they don't even test to see, they don't even do, even for a UTI, to see if it's bacterial or not. So they just give it.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up on some of her last days there. He said, we are going to do this. And we agreed. And honestly, he said, you may not see what you're looking for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, it takes time. He goes, I'm not saying everybody that has this gets better right away.
Mm-hmm.
Some don't. So he was very honest with us. And think about it. He was right out of med school. So he was like learning as he went. And it scared us a little bit, but yet the people we met in his office, Karin, at that time, people from Australia, from Europe,
oh my gosh,
all over the country. Met a lady, a young girl and her mom, same thing as Dana, from Florida. I mean, Canada. I was just kind of observing and watching everything. I'm like, is this real? Like I had those moments where I'm like, we're out in LA, downtown LA at an office. We're from, Midwest. What are we doing here?
Right.
It was just, and that was a blessing that our daughter found him. We owe so much to him because about a year after that, 2019, 2020, she started turning the corner.
It took a year.
Yeah.
A year after the stem cell treatment.
But we did notice this, almost like the way it happened, the snowballing.
Yeah.
We noticed it was going back up the hill a little bit.
So the treatment itself is just an outpatient. So
yes.
She's there and she gets this IV.
She had to be monitored. He had a nurse there.
How long does it take?
It only took, oh my goodness. It was so fast.
Fluids looks like just like kind of typical bag of IV fluids.
IV fluids. It's painless except for the needle stick.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was like, this is, it's a miracle,
right.
Actually.
Seems like too good to be true.
I know.
Yeah.
And you know what? She could have told you maybe this is not working. And she didn't want to even leave there because she was expecting, which I can see, she wanted that miracle.
Sure.
I'm going to leave here feeling good.
Yeah.
I can sit up in the car. Nope. He goes, it doesn't work like that. And he goes, I do have to tell you, it works beautifully for some people, but it takes time.
Yeah.
And there's some that won't and don't recover. There are people that have had this for many years of their life. And in fact, something very sad that we came across is a lot of the flexies, they call them, are so tired. And so they just want to check out of life. Like they're not living, they're not dying.
They're exhausted.
They have to depend on, like a lot of people that this happens to, they end up getting divorced because for the spouse, they just can't handle it for one. Some may even think the person is not pretending, but if they don't have a lot of the collagen depletion and you're okay, you can stand up or you did this, it's not like that. Cause you look at somebody and you never know what's happening on the inside, honestly, like a lot of thyroid patients too, like, oh, you look fine. You should, a lot of them, there's a place in Switzerland. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Pegasus.
Mm-mm.
It is where you can go and die. Euthanasia.
Oh.
Sadly, very young people. And my daughter, she struck up a wonderful friendship from a German woman there too. And she ended up going to Pegasus and taking her life. And her parents were with her. It was so sad.
Oh my gosh.
But I get it. Like seeing, your loved one.
Yeah.
You don't want that to be the rest of their life.
Yeah.
But Dana is so much better. From start to finish, it's been about in bed 3 years. started turning the corner about 4 years. She's not 100% better, but she is so much further. She can do things on her own. I have to help her with certain things, but she's on the other side of it, is what I think. There was times when after the procedure and we were home, they called it a relapse, where you thought she was going backwards.
Yes.
But then the next time she would go forward even more.
Okay, like 2 steps forward, or wait, what is that?
Yes,
that expression?
Yeah, 2 steps forward, 5 steps back, or whatever. Yeah. So
well, that had to be terrifying, though. You're like, oh wait, we're regressing again. Oh.
I know. Yeah. Just a lot of prayer. Honestly, like I was like, Lord, just help her, and He did, and I'm sure there's so much more that I forgot in between or whatever, because but the years go like it's a blur.
Oh, yeah.
So from start to finish, and honestly, we think she's way over the hump right now, and she is looking so much better. Gained her weight back.
Yeah, she
can eat more than 4 foods
that
didn't make her break out, and it's just I failed to say too that she did not have a period for 2.5 years. It's that strong of a drug that actually it's anti-life, like the way your body's supposed to function. Yeah. It took so much away from her. It's a miracle that she is here and she can talk about it. But I think she lost a lot of life, like she was in the prime of her life. She can never get that back, but boy, are we thankful that she is here.
Yeah.
Her music career is still, like, she cannot sing a full song. In fact, I take that back. She has said she is have sang a song without like trying to like have a breath in there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can see her getting back to music and stuff like that. She loves it. She was a singer-songwriter, like in the Chicago area, and I hope she can pick up where she left off. And we just continue to see her get better and better.
Does she stick with like the doc from California? Like, is there still like
there's check-ins? Yeah.
And is there a time when another dose of the stem cells would be helpful, or is it just like this is?
Do you know he said? And I'm not sure. I don't know a lot about it, but you ever heard of peptides?
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah.
You can get these small little, like they're little doses that are already preloaded that you can have delivered. We have, by the way, they're a little costly, but he said you can inject yourself at home. Mm-hmm. He said you can do that, although it's not FDA approved.
Well, then I would trust it.
I know. I mean, isn't that a sad fact?
No, that's exactly, it's a very sad fact, but that's where
anything that's going to help. So
someone's going to squash it so that pharma can keep making their pharma FDA approved drugs.
I know.
And they're going to squash something that could actually really help us.
I know. We did order it, but she, to this day, has not taken it. I guess it probably already expired because there's a date on it. And I go, I don't even want to look at it. It makes me like, kind of brings me back to that moment. Like, she didn't need it, but she is turning this corner that we're so thankful for. But when I look at some other people still on the sites and stuff, they're still not any better. Some of them cannot afford to have this procedure, which I can see, us maybe trying to get funds for people or whatever, but there are people that are just, the sad part about it, they're not believed. And like what we're seeing now with the COVID vaccine injured people, there's so many of them out there right now. And we lived it. We get it. They're not being listened to. There's React 19. If you heard of that. Yes. Brianne Dressen. And she was actually in the trials, she was left by herself to handle everything.
Oh, yeah.
I just knew, and this was all before COVID that we went through this. So I think for me, when this all started, that she, everybody's going to have to get vaccinated and stuff. And I'm like, no, my radar was up way before that. And I want to do the right thing for those people that say, you got to do the right thing and stuff. But honestly, if you've been through something like this, you're going to question. You're not going to take somebody's word for it that that's safe and effective. You're not. I mean, because actually I'm scarred, I'm scarred.
Absolutely.
And my antenna went up like right then when they said, and I go, there's no way even my daughter's gonna. And here's the thing too, which is strange, Karin, that I didn't mention. Dana never saw the effects of COVID because she was in the bed. She wasn't in the outside world except for a few doctor appointments where we had to get her, laying down to take her. And she never saw the craziness. And I would explain to her, but she still doesn't. She goes, did that really happen? Like,
wow.
She doesn't, it kind of went right over her because she was very ill at the time. And I would, for me to say things.
Yeah, she wouldn't know what it was like to go to the grocery store and everyone's got masks
exactly.
on. And all the
that's what,
that day-to-day COVID life that we all endured.
I know.
Or because she wouldn't fully comprehend how it was all these kids doing Zoom school instead of regular school.
I know.
So these Floxies, you're saying if it is a generic brand, they cannot sue?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Which I thought I should know that. I didn't know that.
Because you would think that these Floxies now, enough of them, especially the ones who have all coalesced on this Facebook group with the gal from Colorado, or then even some of these patients from our doc out in Cali, that they could come together and go it's time to sue. But as long as...
And, and a lot of people, the reason they want generic is, costly. It's costly, the brand name. Yeah.
But I didn't know you gave up your right to sue if it was a generic
and
version.
believe me,
I did not know that.
And the way I had to find out about that, because I didn't know that, was I summoned a couple attorneys, and right away they said, well, okay, what did she take? And when they're, intaking all the notes, that it probably won't be a case because it's generic. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, you can't sue if it's generic. It has to be brand.
That's convenient.
So look at all the people. And there has been, it's funny you said that, because there has been people that have sued and won. But you don't hear about them. And then they can't talk about it. There's a gag. So those are the ones that took brand. There is one thing too, that when Dana was very sick, I was trying to get the word out there, because you don't want this to happen to anybody else. I ended up contacting a news station, and they talked with me, and then they wanted their medical type editor to get back to me. And then when I started saying, what was causing my daughter's mysterious illness, that's another thing. So many people, and I know everybody knows somebody with some strange, mysterious thing that came about. And now they don't know what's going on. They don't get a lot of it. I have to really stress this, is these drugs.
Yeah.
Is there a line for real? Yeah. But when they try to push that, people will take that diagnosis and just stick with it. Because a lot of this does look like that.
Sure.
But a lot of times it's not. So I think with, what happened with us, I just wanted to get that word out there. So I had contacted them, and they ghosted us. When the editor was supposed to get back to me, I never heard back. And they were going to set up a date and everything to come out to our house. And this is when Dana could do an interview. It would be slow, but, and then even telling her, she goes, hey, did you ever hear back? And I said, nope.
Because they got the sense.
The
interview was going to consist of, and she was on this drug, this antibiotic, and then of course they're looking at who funds their news show.
Correct. I know, I had to piece that together, and what I learned, it's okay, they can't go against the narrative because that's the money coming into their station.
Well, that's one thing I hadn't fully understood. I was aware, because we've talked about this and our community knows that when you become very skeptical of pharma, then you start to be real savvy with the fact that, oh, wow, why are we one of only 2 countries on the planet that allows direct-to-consumer marketing for pharmaceuticals? Which is why every time we turn on the TV, we see A, B, C, D for psoriasis or this, or for Ozempic. And now and it's all direct to the consumer. And I used to think, well, that's not a good idea, because then it's ask your doctor about. But then what I learned, and this was, I think, from Callie Means, some of his interviews, it's not even that the direct-to-consumer portion of pharmaceutical advertising is the problem. It's that if you've got ABC, NBC, CBS, and all the Fox or the cable news and Fox too, all of them, if they're funded by all these ads that are coming from pharma, then these news programs are certainly not going to ever do an expose on a drug that is harming people, that it's claimed to be safe and effective. This is one of the reasons that no one talked about the COVID jab,
right?
Including the conservative, quote unquote, not sure why this got politicized, but it did, including the quote unquote conservative media like Fox.
Mm-hmm.
No one was talking about it. And it was because, brought to you by Pfizer, which is Joe Rogan did this little compilation of all these news programs. Anderson Cooper, brought to you by Pfizer. And it's not just Pfizer. It's Eli Lilly. It's Merck.
Mm-hmm.
It's GlaxoSmithKline. And so one of the things that RFKJ is trying to do, I know this was part of the initiative before he became Secretary of HHS, but through Children's Health Defense, which we're members of, the Indiana chapter, one of the initiatives was to try to remove pharmaceutical advertising from our news stations and actually from any kind of TV station. Needs to happen because if you are captured, if whoever's buttering your bread, paying your check, you are never going to look that gift horse in the mouth.
I know.
Did I say that right?
Yes,
that expression?
You did.
You're not. You're going to be like, I can't bite the hand that feeds me. All these expressions. Yeah.
That's so true.
Right.
Because, once they didn't get back to me, I thought about it. I go, wait a minute. That's who pays. That's their advertising.
They're not going to go against them.
They will bring this to them and they know where it's going. Yep. So that's why she never called back.
That's why. So
and I thought that was terrible. So guess what? I can't get the message out.
Nope.
And we've seen this in the last 5 years. People that tried to get the message out about that these were not safe and effective. They were smeared, made to look like a quack. In fact, I feel like that myself sometimes because I just feel like just because I'm trying to speak and tell what happened, that can't happen. There's no way. Because that would be pulled off the market in a heartbeat.
Right.
It's
like, no, it wouldn't. Especially when people can't put together a lawsuit because it's a generic. Or in the case of a vaccine, if it's on the childhood schedule, since the 1986 Act, parents cannot sue any of the vaccine manufacturers if their kid all of a sudden gets autism, like a day after they got their wellness check and got their MMR, for example, or some allergy, or all of a sudden they're allergic to peanuts or eggs or an autoimmune. And we know that these vaccines are also related to ADHD, all kinds of things that we just normalize now.
Right.
Everyone's got these things. No. Everyone didn't always have these things. But yeah, so if it's a generic, you can't sue. If it's a regular drug, if it's a vaccine, you can't sue if it's on the childhood schedule. And then that's one of the reasons they labeled the COVID shot as, even though it's mRNA gene therapy, they labeled it as a vaccine. CDC actually changed the definition of a vaccine. And because of the PrEP Act, that allowed it, because it was an emergency use product, then now we can't sue. And that's why our Reaction 19 people are struggling so much.
I know.
We do have to be in prayer about these initiatives. Like, for example, we talked about, you and I, before we got on air, the Grace Skara or Sarkar.
Shara, yes.
Yeah, so Shara.
Going on in Wisconsin,
yeah,
I believe.
So we do have some people, despite, and this young girl died due to hospital negligence or almost, I've read the entire story about it. It almost seemed like it was on purpose. They were trying to say DNR.
So many,
They put on her chart, do not resuscitate.
Yes.
And the sister and the dad are like, excuse me, no, we did not have that. Why did you just put that on there?
Yes. And she was a Down syndrome young girl.
High functioning, could drive, could hold a job, all kinds of things.
So sad. And, that case, I know it's in jury right now. I mean, they're in court right now. But that may open up a whole slew of cases.
And let's hope it does, because we can't have these. For example, something like generic, you cannot just say you can't sue. If someone can't be held to account, if they cannot be sued, what incentive do they have to actually make a product that is safe and
liability free?
That's so anti-American. We cannot stand for that. The only reason people have ever had to come clean is because of lawsuits. And I'm not litigious by nature. I'm not one like, I'm going to slip on the sidewalk. I'm going to sue you. I'm not that person.
Right.
But we have to have that in place to protect people.
And what I understand is vaccines are the only thing that they can do it with.
Mm-hmm.
any other, even like a Tylenol or whatever, you can sue for that. Like you can, but the vaccine makes her totally untouchable.
Right.
I'm like, these are our kids. These are our infants. These are our beloved children. How can you not make them safer? I just don't get it.
Oh no, we're just going to normalize everything. That's what let's normalize the chronic childhood illness. Because like when we were kids, we did not have 1 in 31 kids being autistic.
I know.
Oh no, they're better at diagnosing it. Excuse me? No. I didn't see, how many kids did you see in your classroom flapping their hands and staring at some like checkerboard pattern on the floor?
Right.
Unless you distracted them, having meltdowns. I mean, yeah, you had your rambunctious boys. You had a couple of them here and there.
I know, it's so crazy.
But so the normalizing of these conditions is also something we have to be very aware of, because that's an effort. And even the autism awareness, I take issue with that. No. Stop telling me that it's normal for all these kids to be diagnosed with autism.
I know. And sometimes you're seeing more than one child in one family. Like, what is that? Okay, don't tell me it's genetics, because a lot of times it is pieced directly in relation to what they just took.
You can't have 1 in 10,000 kids being diagnosed as autistic in our day, in the 70s and 80s, to now, 50 years later, to have 1 in 31. There's no genetic change that could have happened. That is something in the environment. It is some sort of toxin. And I'm not saying it's just vaccines. It could be the glyphosate that they spray on our crops. It could be the chemtrails. It could be any number of things. It could be the 5G. I don't know. But for people to just go, there's nothing to see here, and you're an anti-vaxxer quack. Well, I really feel sorry for that person who's going to look at us for asking questions and trying to help children live healthy lives and trying to help people not have what happened to your daughter happen.
Oh my gosh.
And call us quacks? Okay, well, you and pharma just stay in your little la-la land and keep poisoning each other. That's what I say to them.
Amen. I'm telling you.
All right, Lori. So for anyone who may have had a friend of a friend or someone who wants to learn more, to understand maybe these Facebook groups, like share a little bit of, as we close out here, something that can leave them with some hope, or maybe the name of that book, or where would you suggest people go if they're starting to go, wait a minute, maybe I've had, because what we don't want them to do is to ever get to the threshold. Maybe they've already had some adverse reactions and didn't know it.
I know.
Didn't attribute it to. So we're saying, first and foremost, if it's got a flox in it, I mean, what names do they need to stay away from? If they did feel they need an antibiotic, they need to go. You would recommend a name brand. First of all, you would recommend none.
Okay. Honestly, I know what happened to us. I'm honestly traumatized.
I would not want to take one after you've just told me this story. I don't
there are milder things you can take. And it's so strange because this is the disconnect. If I can say one thing, you'll say, all right, for instance, that you're allergic, say to Cipro. Okay.
Yeah.
And this has happened to people on these sites. When I look, they say, okay, they're allergic. They'll come in with Levaquin, and it's in the same, I have a readout too. I mean, handout for you, but they will say, okay, let's try the Levaquin. That's in the same drug class. So you have to take your health into your own hands.
Oh my gosh.
In fact, during my daughter's illness, my mom was having issues, and she passed along with Dana. Oh my gosh, we had at one time, my mom was in we had moved to a townhome. Me and my husband, after our kids were all out of the house, I had my mom suffering from cancer in our front bedroom. Dana's in our back. We only have 2. It's townhome. She's in that. Me and my husband on our blow up mattress in the living room. I go, how did we make it through that? But for instance, with my mom, as she was getting chemo treatment, she ended up with a UTI, right? All right. So here I am. Should we go into the hospital? And, I'll close this out very quickly, but before I could even, and I was her POA. So I'm my daughter's, I'm hers. They're already taking her back because we were in the emergency room. She had a really bad UTI and felt dizzy and all this other stuff. Before I could even get back there with her, because I had to stay up front and answer, her little history and all that, they took her back. By the time I got back there, the curtain was drawn. They were already going to hang. They were going to hang Cipro, like Cipro, the brand name. Oh, and I heard that name. Oh yeah, we'll just do some Cipro. And I'm like, excuse me, honestly, and I'm sure they looked at me like I was crazy, but
fine, go ahead.
I said, no Cipro. Is there something milder?
Yes.
first. They go right to these big guns.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, they say it's like killing a fly instead of a fly swatter,
Right.
a machine gun.
Great.
That's a good analogy because.
Yes, it is.
And then one thing I learned in the pamphlet, you're not supposed to give this to people over 60.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, honestly, in my opinion, you don't give it to anybody, but
right.
they say because of the older people, over 60, of course, you have a little more weakening of muscles. And so that could, honestly, at over 60, they're not even supposed to order that. Go, how did that just happen where they're already going to, jump to these fluoroquinolones?
Right. And
all she needs is something milder. I don't know. I just said no. I go, we had somebody injured by that. And instead of going into detail, the guy, the doctor did look at me and he goes, okay. And we had to start putting it that we were allergic to it because they're going to give it to you, even if you can't speak up for yourself. Right. So now it's in all of our records. Yes. I mean, because of what happened to our daughter. And I feel, honestly, our other daughter, Kelly, bless her heart, she has been through like so much. I forget about her sometimes, how much this affected her. Mm-hmm. She lost her sister for 7 years, had explained to people and get those looks of, well, maybe she just has or whatever. It's like, and then you stop talking about it because you can see in people's faces that, right. And I don't mean that honestly, like, there's a lot of people that did understand and were there for us, but we were constantly like, you just didn't want to go out and talk about it. No. So, right. And then my daughter Dana, like she had to live it. So I just, if I could tell you one thing, just make sure they do a culture because this is for serious bacterial infections. And a lot of people, it's not bacterial. So, and you would think, okay, doctors would know that. It just is what they've been told by the reps, that come in. Yep. That no, this is okay. This will just take it right out of there, which a lot of like doctors now, they only see the patient for just a little bit and they want it to go away. They don't want them to come back. So they might reach for the one that's going to really knock it out. But what else are they going to knock out? Their health. Yeah. So, yeah. And I'm trying to think the books. There's so many books. Bitter Pills is one of them. And he goes in this deep dive of what happened to his wife after one pill. Right. And then he goes on to that he attended pharma meetings and how drugs get passed. So, it's a deep dive into all that. I think you would like it.
I would love it.
Stephen Fried. Yeah, he was a best-selling author, but that book came out so long ago. And when I read it, it hurts my heart because so many people have been injured since then.
Because if
they're not doing a good job of getting it out there.
Dana wouldn't have gone through what she went through.
Oh my gosh. I know. And I sit there and go, we could have lost her with the pulmonary. Absolutely. She just could have stopped breathing and
and the FDA approved, but they won't pull this drug?
Right.
I mean, they did the report.
I know.
And they won't pull it.
And it's I trust my FDA. That letter. Oh, they sent that letter to doctors, but who got it? I don't know. Like
who read it?
Was it on a fax machine? How did they get it to them? Did they email it? Did it go to spam?
Right. Yeah.
They're just not doing a good job of warning.
Right.
But now if you look, and I have some stuff for you if you want it, but every few years they come up with a new side effect of it. Diabetes now, what it does, glucose and, the dissection, aortic dissection, which is huge. That's that main blood vessel. It can cause that to dissect, split open. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy that this drug is still being prescribed right now at this moment. Yeah. And some people go, oh, I took it. Didn't do a thing. Oh, well. But then, maybe a few months later, they're having their shoulder hurts or, and it actually shreds tendons and nerves. It can splice them. So it's so scary. So scary that there is a drug that's strong that's being used on almost everybody.
For a routine UTI.
Oh, eye drops. I didn't even get into that, but people have been, even LASIK. Okay, you know how many people have had LASIK? Yeah. I'm not saying everybody's going to have an issue, but the drops that they use, the moxifloxacin and Flox, it's in here. The drops have them. They even have Ciprodex drops for little ones when they have ear infections. So this is given to small babies. Of course, not as big a dose, but who's to say how much is too much for somebody? We don't know. That's not a one size fits all.
Right.
And I think, I hope I answered all your questions on, the book.
Yeah.
Since then I've been to so many conferences.
We'll share some of these links in the show notes for sure. Yeah.
Okay. And I think there was one more thing I was going to tell you, but it escaped my mind. Besides the FDA letter, I have a list of, if somebody needed the list, you can go on, I think it's fluoroquinolone.org, and it gives you the exact names.
Okay.
Oh, and don't even get me started about the veterinarian side of these two, with animals.
Yeah.
And things that are going on with hips and not able to walk all of a sudden. And because they give it a lot. And there's actually a Facebook site called Floxy Pets. Floxy, that their animals are being injured just the same as humans. So
well, we are so happy to hear that Dana is doing better.
Thank you.
And appreciate your authentic vulnerability to share this story, because if even one person hears this,
I know,
avoids taking this antibiotic and perhaps even thinks about some other options for dealing with an infection, a bacterial infection, and maybe that would be a good follow-up episode to find out what are some of the holistic ways to it.
There's plenty, I know. And we've gone down that route too. It actually, intertwined with this whole story was we were trying, homeopathy and all that. And I think what happened was it was just too mitochondrial deep at the point that it took time to repair.
Right.
But some of those do help some of the flaxes. I have to mention that. Because magnesium, that's another thing in some of the handouts here. Magnesium is depleted. So that alone, magnesium is responsible for so many functions in your body. So a lot of the people that are floxed actually have to take bigger doses of magnesium. And that has helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because magnesium, and a lot of times the iron is depleted with the flaxies too. So some of them have to actually get infusions. It's really crazy because it depletes so much iron from their body, and hence the color. Our daughter had the same thing. But things weren't coming back allopathically.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's why we went the other route as far as looking into other modalities and stuff. So it's been a long journey, but honestly, I was meant to get this out. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And
I appreciate it.
If I can help, like you said, one person out there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Lori. Elliott and I want to thank Lori and her daughter, Dana, for their vulnerability and willingness to share a very excruciatingly painful chapter of their lives. They shared it with the intention that others could avoid going through what Dana has gone through and continues to go through. Hope this is helpful for you as you make decisions for you and your family regarding antibiotics and other medications. Until next time, make it a great week.
Love and Life with Dr. Karin and Pastor Elliott is produced by Tim May and executive producer Dr. Karin Anderson-Abel. For more information about Love and Life, please go to loveandlifemedia.com.